Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of My Life with Cancer.
Hello everyone, and welcome to
Whoops,
a very special
I'm
episode of
getting some echo
My
there.
Life with.
There, I've stopped it. Uh, I had my YouTube channel opened in another tab, and my camera is having trouble focusing on my face. Um, so you should grab a nightgown, grab a smoke, grab a drink. Very nice, but this is just water. I don't drink, and I don't smoke either. Um, but make yourself comfortable. Grab a loved one. We're going to talk about chemo, cancer, and sex. And I've tried to announce it on the Stand Up to Cancer Discord, and the bot decided to slap me on the face because I said sex. I think that's the reason. Um, all right, and today I want to introduce a special guest, and here he is. Um, this is I'm gonna call him Timmy. There, it's better. We can see his foot now. Timmy, and as you can see, Timmy is naked. And Timmy has no junk because he's just a doll uh, that my granddaughters play with. And I just literally went next door to the guest room where we keep all the stuff that the girls use, and I just picked him up. So I'm going to use Timmy not as a visual aid to explain anything, but well, actually, it's going to explain something. It's going to explain the the fundraising effort of this enterprise, and so I've mentioned before that I'm doing a fundraising at the same time I'm doing my streaming, and right now, if I go to my fundraising page, I'm going to try to share it with you. Share screen, the tab. There it is. Now, yeah, both are visible. So if I go to my fundraising page and I show you what I have there, you have the donate button and everything, and you have a bar here that tells you how much has been raised of the goal of $1,000. And also you can see me on there, and down there there's the top donator, and so as people give more and more money, that brings us towards the goal of $1,000. Timmy here is going to gain. I'm going to hide that again. He's going to gain some clothing. Right now, he just has a shoe because I gave some money to test the system. I wasn't sure if it was even working. It could have been bombing in my face, and then I would have had a bunch of people saying, "Oh, your system doesn't work." Um, so I have difficulty with orientation here. So yeah, the shoe is my donation. I do not guarantee that the pieces of clothing that he's going to acquire are going necessarily going to be representative of the amount that you give. Um, but yeah, so we don't want to send Timmy to fight cancer naked. We'd rather be clothed. So give if you give, I'm going to call them, and I'm going to bring him to the hospital, and all along is going to be with me, and we may have even special other guests. There's a lot of stuff in the room next door that I could bring with me. So yeah, I just wanted to show you, the donation page, and if you go to my, I'm going to get to my, sorry, I'm going to get to my page. I need to share again. It's a little bit cumbersome, but bear with me. If I go to YouTube, and there you can see at the very top, there's a, oh, I should go on the page. At the very top, there's a donation button for people on YouTube, and I'm going to stop that. And for people who are on Twitch, I'm going to show you this thing here. Yeah, Twitch. Twitch, there's a big donate now button in the about of my channel. So I wanted to show you where those were if you were wondering. And if you have any question or anything, you can get me on Twitter and or on the chat here and ask me, where do I donate, and I will tell you. And of course, my phone has decided to go off right. I was explaining that. Yeah, I'm going to stop sharing that. All right. The updates since my last broadcast. The only thing I think that you may have heard about, because I did an impromptu on CBD oil and Amazon. And I think Amazon is just screwing the customer. Is that I've started taking CBD oil for sleep instead of I was on trazodone, I think. And I went I cut the trazodone cold turkey, and in retrospect, I think it was not a very good idea. I should have tapered it down and go a lower dosage until I stopped taking it. But I just went cold turkey, and I didn't take a huge amount of it, but I think it was enough for me to feel some withdrawal symptoms the days after. And today I'm feeling pretty good, but for the past 3 days, uh, I felt a little more lethargic, and it's been a little rougher than usual. I needed to sleep more during the day, but my nights have improved after I stopped the trazodone and I started taking CBD oil. And instead of having like maybe 4 hours of sleep and then that's it, I'm awake and I ruminate for another 4 hours. I have a full night of sleep, but I would say that the my sleep is lighter than it used to be. So, I mean, the jury is still out whether the CBD is doing something or it's just that I stopped taking trazodone and that improved things. I'm not sure yet. But right now I'm going with CBD oil, and I'm changing products. I'm going to take a different product that I think is going to be better. It's going to go sublingually instead of right now. I'm kind of it's not gummies, so it's a syrup, but I'm mostly eating the syrup instead of letting the syrup go under my tongue. And but this new product is going to go under my tongue, and I'm hoping it's going to have a little better effect on my sleep, because right now I'm satisfied. I sleep, but I like it to be deeper. I'm sleeping from some. I go to bed usually at 9 o'clock or 9:30 in the evening, and then I get up at 6 in the morning. And usually I have a full night of sleep, but I'd like the sleep to be deeper. So that's it for the updates. I'm just right now I'm in wait and see mode, because they gave me the date of June 18th last time, but they said it's possible we're going to call you a little bit earlier. I don't expect that I'm going to be called Monday, because they're doing a bunch of procedures on me that day. They're going to change. They're going to change the dressing. They're going to do labs, change the dressing. Excuse me, I'm still guessing. Change the dressing, and then do a COVID test yet again. But the COVID tests at UMC are nice, so it's not a big problem. All right, so then the topic of the day: cancer, chemo, and sex. And right off the bat, the thing that I think is probably evident, but people don't talk about it, is that cancer is not the end of sex. It's not you have cancer and then you cannot have sex anymore. I guess there are always in cancer, there are always special cases, and there are always cases that are different than other cases. I've seen it through my chemo, where the symptoms I had, the side effects I had, were personal to myself, and I've talked to people who had much worse side effects than I've had. I didn't lose my hair. People lost their hair. Um, it's the same thing with the number of rounds that you're going to get of chemo. It depends on your oncologist. Um, it's all independent. And there may be people who will tell you that they've got cancer and then they cannot have sex anymore for whatever reason. And I don't know what. I mean, I can imagine some reasons because, unfortunately, if you've seen the Stephen Merchant's blurb on Stand Up to Cancer, knob cancer is a thing, penis cancer is a thing. So if you get penis cancer, probably it could impede your ability to have sex. But otherwise, if it's something else on a different organ, I there can be other reasons than just physical for uh, not wanting or having sex when you have cancer. And so the advice, I'm going to get to my notes now because I have a bunch of notes. The advice they give us in chemo is when we get chemo. So you have cancer, you can have sex. There's no a priori prohibition to have sex. But when you are actively under chemo and for some days afterwards, there's a procedure that you have to use to if you want to have sex, and often you don't particularly want to have sex when you just had chemo. You don't feel particularly good, so it's not interesting. And maybe for a few days afterwards, you don't necessarily want to have sex, but there's a whole procedure. Like when you get chemo, the product gets in all your body and all the bodily fluids, and you don't want those fluids to touch your loved ones um, or loved one. But loved ones is fine too. If you have multiple people in your life, go for it. I mean, I don't judge. Um, so you don't want the fluids to get on them because it can give them chemo, and it was to a point when I was having my multiple rounds of chemo to make the tumor disappear that the doctors and the nurses gave me documents that were saying if you go to the toilet, here's what you have to do. You have to flush twice, and you have to cover the bowl, and you have to do this, and you have to do that. And it was extra work to make sure that my wife wasn't getting my chemo at the same time I was getting it. So there's that. And because of that, if you're going to have sex when you have chemo, you need to use protection. Uh, and for us, it means condoms. For people, it may be other devices. I guess for lesbians, they have dams or whatever they call them. Uh, for us, it's condoms. So for one thing, it prevents you from giving chemo to your partner. And the other thing is that it protects you from infection because if you're having chemo, they're most likely messing with your immune system. And in my case, they were messing with my immune system because I had a lymphoma, and the lymphatic system is the immune system. So they were messing with my immune system, and they, they said you should use condoms because you don't to reduce your risk of infection. Um, Other than that, I would say for me the chemo it hasn't impacted my well, it has impacted my interest in sex. I shouldn't say it hasn't because during the 4 days I was at the hospital when I was getting chemo. I was every 2 weeks I was 4 days at the hospital, and during those 4 days I could not have sex. Even if I wanted to, it was impossible. My wife was not there. They prevented family from visiting. So that was impossible. But in between the rounds of chemo, I would say my sex drive hasn't changed. Um, the one thing that I think has changed, and I don't know if it's psychological or physiological or what it is exactly, is that it takes longer for me to reach orgasm. I don't have a good explanation for it, but it takes longer. And so, the good news is that when you have cancer, your sex life doesn't have to end. The bad news is that it may have some effects, and it had some effects on me, but nothing major. Uh, and because of the effects it had on me, and because of the fact that my wife is 20 years older than I am, I've been reflecting lately about, what can we do to prolong our sexual life if we have cancer or if we have other disabilities, because it has happened in the past that my wife didn't feel like it, or because she has pain in the joints or other things. How can, if we want to have sex, how can we do it? And that reflection took me uh, uh, pretty far back. Like I'm thinking about the sexual education that I received from my parents, and my parents, I have to say, were pretty good in their time with giving me and my brother a good sexual education. We had books when we were kids um, that were, I guess, teaching aids. Some of them were flat out teaching sexual education, but I think they might have been used as aids. I just don't remember, how my parents used those books. I remember the books. I don't remember how my parents used them. And my mother was an elementary school teacher. And I'm sorry, but sometimes she was coming back home with stories about what the kids were bringing up in class about sexual education and how sometimes ignorant they were. But my parents made a point of educating us, adequately about the topic. And then in my teens, I I don't know how it happened, but I was just looking at my mother's books. She had all kinds of books. Some of them were textbooks, some of them were, novels and short stories and stuff like that. And I was looking through her books, and I found a book on female sexuality, which I don't remember what title it had, but in the book they had, and I started reading it, and I don't remember the details of how I started reading that, and whether I was trying to hide it from my mother. Uh, Maybe there were some discussions I didn't want to have at that time. I don't remember anything about how I read it, but I read it, and then in the book they had a lot of interviews with women that were, women in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, women that had children, sometimes 4 or 5 children, maybe more. And what I found really, really sad is that you were reading about the sexual history, and you were getting to the end on how it is now, and a lot of those women had never experienced orgasm in their life, and that boggled my mind. It's like, how can you be with someone you love for so many years and not be able to give them an orgasm? I was thinking about the guys. The women, I was sad about the women too, but it puzzled me. Like the guys, like, what were they doing? Were they even there? What's going on there? I suppose it's the old model of the male who just has to have his prize, and just comes into the bedroom and does his thing, and then he's out of there, and the woman has to be receptive to whatever happens. um yeah, I just I couldn't wrap my mind around that if it's somebody you love, and you talk about love, and people say we get married for love. If it's love, then you want to satisfy that person. You don't want to just take whatever comes your way and be done with it. Um, so I read that, and I've decided for myself that I would never be that way. That I would not be the guy who comes in, takes what he wants, and just leaves, and leaves his loved one unsatisfied. No, it really it boggles the mind. I mean, still boggle today. Like, you're 70 years old and you've never experienced an orgasm. And those women, they were teaching them what an orgasm was, because the people who wrote the book, they they give them the tools to have an orgasm, and then it's like, I've never experienced that before. um, and yeah, it just it's crazy, and I'm sad. I'm sad for the women who had to live with partners that were not considerate. I'm sad for the partners who, and sometimes you sometimes the reaction is like, well, the men were just bad men, but some of them, I think, were trying to do the best they could, and they had just been raised in in a I would say, an irresponsible way. Like, you need to talk to your partner and ask them what they want, and give them what they want. And it's okay for a woman to want something. I was looking at an old movie recently. I think it was Guys and Dolls, and at some point, the woman, at first, there was an interaction between the Marlon Brando character and another woman whose name I just escapes me right now. But their first interaction, she was resisting him, and then you have this thing, like, when you have to resist first, and then you can possibly give in, but you cannot take the lead, and there's so many rules. How about people just talk to each other and you know uh, express what they want, and it's okay, it's fine to do that. So yeah, I've decided when I read that book that that would not be me, and I I think over the years I've been pretty much able to maintain my side of that bargain that I made with myself, to be attentive to my partner. Uh, if something seems off, I'm going to ask if something is off, and I'm going to adjust. And I think you know it makes everything much better. For me, it's very important that if I have sex with my wife, that she experiences pleasure, and I don't just take away from her, that I give her something, and it contributes to my own pleasure to be able to do that. It's a kind of a virtual circle, I suppose. If it were the other way, it would be a vicious circle, but it's a virtual circle where you give pleasure, and then the act of giving pleasure gives you back pleasure also. um, I know if I feel that things are off in any way when we're together, my wife and I'm going. I tend to shut down, and my pleasure also was going to shut down, and then things are going to go south. Um, so it has to be kind of a synergistic relationship where things build upon another, and then you reach a crescendo. So yeah, so more recently, um, I've been thinking about the old model versus maybe some new models that we can establish. Like the old model, which says that there has to be a man and a woman, and the man has to penetrate the woman, and the man has to ejaculate, and otherwise it's a failure. uh, I don't think it's particularly useful when you have cancer, or when you're disabled in any way. And I'm not talking disabled like you don't have legs or anything like that. I'm talking any kind of disability, that it can be temporary. It can be that you have pain here or there, or anything like that. But you can have pain here or there and still want to please your partner, and still want to have a sex life. And the old model of it has to be like you have to follow these steps to reach the goal. I'm questioning that. To me, it seems to me that we can have other ways to give each other pleasure than the traditional model. Um, oh yeah, and recently, I mean, not recently. It was a few months ago. I was I was listening to a lady. It was the Lymphoma Society. I don't remember which society was doing it, but they had invited a lady to talk about young adults undergoing chemo and sex. And for the young adults, the problem is different than for me because for a lot of them, I think, not all of them, but some of them, they're also trying to find a partner, and it's difficult when you're trying to find a partner to say, well, I have cancer, or I have had cancer, or my cancer, I've had this treatment and now the cancer is in remission, but we don't know if it's going to come back. So there was an angle to their problematic that I was sympathetical to, but was not is not my life, because I'm with my wife. We've been together for 23 years, I think, and married for 20 years. So that aspect of it was, I was sympathetical to it, but it's not my life. On the other hand, one thing I remember, the lady was giving the class saying, she said, it's important to masturbate regularly. It's important. It's important. And that's the thing, like, oh, it's important. We're there now where it's important to masturbate regularly. When I was in school in the sexual education, it was like, well, masturbation exists, and we are going to grudgingly accept that you masturbate, and that you're not going to get hair in your hands or go to hell, or we're okay with it. It exists. But now the sexual education is different. This lady was saying it's important to masturbate regularly, and I tend to agree with her for multiple reasons. But one of the important reasons is that, for one thing, if you are disabled in any way, shape, or form, if you have cancer, if you have anything, and it impacts you, how are you gonna know that it is the disease that is impacting you, and not like if you're doing something with your partner, it's not your partner that is like not performing right. If you can't get yourself off, I don't think anyone else can get yourself off. You have to first be able to get yourself off. That's the basic rule, I think. um, and the only way to do that is to masturbate, and the only way to do that, to know what the cancer is doing to you, is you have to try it yourself. And then you can say, well, it takes longer to get off, so maybe we need to adjust things in bed when we go back to the bedroom. It's going to take a longer foreplay, or it's going to take a different foreplay, or maybe it's all going to be foreplay and it's not going to be any penetration. Now, I've been lucky because the side effects that I've had, have not been terrible. The symptoms were terrible, but the side effects after treatment were not terrible. And now I have my couple of extra tits under my shirt here, and I protect them so that I don't bang my wife with it, uh, literally. Uh, but you know, other than that, it's been pretty good. But there can be other cases where, and I've been wondering about that, and I've asked my oncologist, can I have sex with my wife? He said yes, okay, but no strenuous work. So I have to find a balance between sex and strenuous work. Um, so so it could be that in some cases where people are too affected by their treatment, and they want to have sex and they can have sex, but the treatment is affecting their stamina too much, that they cannot do the traditional missionary position uh, to the end thing. They may be able to just you know, masturbate each other, and that's all it's going to be. And I think that's fine. Uh, oh, I just noticed I still have that damn crawler in the at the bottom. Idiot. Yeah, now I'm going to take it off. There we go. Um, yeah, I still had that thing at the bottom. So, what I was saying is that we can establish different models of successful sexual intercourse, and it doesn't have to be the missionary position or anything resembling that. Um, and it can be masturbation, but the first thing to be able to do that is to know how your body responds to yourself. If you give yourself the best condition, what happens? And if it takes longer, then you can adjust. um yeah, that's probably all I had on this topic. um Let me check a few things. I don't see anybody in chat. So yeah, what I'm gonna say to close this is my next streams are going to be from the hospital. I cannot tell you when they're gonna be. I'm playing it by ear. I think the first few days are gonna be very hectic. I may stream for 10 seconds or for 1 minute or for 10 minutes or not stream at all, maybe even if I feel that I'm just too tired. um, Still guessing. But I'm gonna try to stream every day if I can, and it might be that some of the updates are going to be on Twitter instead of being a live stream. There's a whole range of things that I can do. I can go on Twitter and just tweet text, or I can do a live stream on Twitter, which Twitter allows 10 minutes live streams. I can do what I'm doing now, but a shorter time, or I can do what I'm doing now and I have used the same time that I usually use. So the possibilities are endless. I'm going to try to do it every day, but I can't guarantee what time. And I think I'm going to have to need to adapt also to the climate there, which I thought I had it in the bag when I was going to do my blood filtering, that I would just be able to stream there. I couldn't because there was too much noise, and I could hear the other people. I know when I'm gonna be admitted, I'm gonna have my private room, so hearing other people is not gonna be an issue. Not sure about the noise. I think it's not gonna be a problem, but I could again have a surprise. So yeah, right now we're looking at June 18th for me to be admitted, and yeah, I don't know how often I'm going to be able to stream, but I'm going to try to do it every day. With this being said, thank you for listening, and I'll see you. I guess it's going to be when I'm in. Well, I might have an update tomorrow after I go to the hospital, but I don't expect them to tell me anything particularly enlightening. I'm still flushing my ports and taking care of my Hickman port, so Hickman line. Sorry, I'm taking care of the Hickman line. I'm flushing it. So I don't expect tomorrow to be a groundbreaking day in any shape, but I'll keep you updated. Thank you and bye.